We're monitoring the latest developments from Switzerland, where the U.S. will meet with Qatar, Pakistan, and Iran shortly. This comes as President Trump's attempt to end the war in Iran increasingly is looking like a losing battle for him at home. He's already infuriated isolationists in his MAGA base by starting the war. And now his effort to end that war is alienating Republican Party hawks who say his agreement with Iran looks a bit like surrender. He's also fanning the flames of an international incident he created with a major ally, Italy, renewing a claim that Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni begged for a picture with him at the G7 summit, which she's denied. On Truth Social, he doubled down and said she did it to improve her poll numbers and accused her of being ungrateful. Meloni blasted back, writing, "These constant, unprovoked attacks are senseless. As for my popularity, being your friend certainly has not helped, nor does it depend on my relationship with you." She added, "I suggest you focus on yours." Joining us now is Will Sommer, senior reporter for The Bulwark. Will, thank you for joining us this morning. Let's start with the MAGA civil war, so to speak, that's been brewing in the Republican Party over the war in Iran. We're mostly past primary season, heading into November. Which faction of the party is more important for the president to ultimately appease? Is it the hawks or the base here? And is it a problem that he can sort of split the baby on just because of the media landscape we're in, where he could ostensibly get away with saying two different things to these different factions?
It's a good question. I mean, previously we've seen people who oppose the war, these sort of America First people represented by Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson. They were obviously very unhappy when he launched the war. Now we're seeing people who support Israel, a more kind of traditional, conservative, Republican, kind of pre-Trump base, feel that, I think understandably that Israel's being abandoned here, that Trump is effectively admitting that America's lost the war. On one hand, I think he's really bulked up by organizations like Fox News that are going to continue saying Trump is right no matter what he does. On the other hand, I think we can look at social media. There are all these voices out there. And I think people are recognizing this, even if you're on the right, no matter kind of what your particular faction is, it looks like Trump has kind of bumbled his way into this war. Now he's lost. It's a bad look for him.
Well, Will, speaking of all these voices, let's listen to some of the Republican senators who've been blasting this MOU. Watch this.
I do have concerns that certain aspects of this deal are a step in the wrong direction. For instance, we're going to lift sanctions on Iran's oil exports right away.
Giving billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us is not a good idea.
The details that I've seen so far look awful. This will go down as a tremendous foreign policy blunder.
So let's say, in an optimistic view, that a real deal is done by the Trump administration. Given those comments, could that deal be ratified by the U.S. Senate, which would have to happen?
I think that's a real question for Trump, and I think it's a real problem. I mean, I think we know the Israeli conservatives who support Israel, a very powerful voice within the Republican Party. And, you can see those senators there saying they question this deal. I think right now, the way it's structured, it looks like a real giveaway to Iran. And so I think there would be a lot of challenges there. On the other hand, I think a lot of Republicans are just thinking like, God, we got into this war. Can we just get out of it? Who cares? Let's move on. We want to get this done with before the midterms. I think even we're seeing some Israel hawks say, well, maybe we can go back for a new war after the midterms. Kind of crazy talk. But basically, they're like, we just got to beat the Democrats. And that's sort of the larger issue for us.
Wow.
Well, there are many things that are interesting. But one of the things that's very interesting, we just had that sop mash of Cassidy, Cruz, and Cotton talking about, their issues with the war in Iran, this deal. Both Cotton and Cruz voted no on the last War Powers resolution, where that is actually where they have some power. They're just talking right now. But I also want to throw that out there for those watching. Cassidy voted with Democrats. The rest of them did not. I want to move to the Meloni of it all. You have the back and forth about this photo. I have gone to many of these whether it's a G7 or it's one of these other events where foreign leaders are there and they have these side meetings. The photos are planned ahead of time. It would be it would be very shocking if any leader would say to another, oh my God, can we please take a photo? Let me get my cell phone out and take a selfie. There's a part of me that says, who cares? But then the other part of me about this is politics, including politics between what's supposed to be friends and allies around the world, is personal. So talk a little bit about why, if at all, you believe this matters to kind of where we are with our allies at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting situation because, you know, we have Trump is alienating American allies for really no reason here. This is someone who's not only a NATO ally, but also is sort of more politically aligned with Trump than other G7 members. And so it's really inexplicable. I mean, the idea that Giorgia Meloni feels that she needs, I'm sure she has plenty of photos with Trump already. So, I mean, I think it's this example of, you know, more sort of Trump's sort of foreign policy bumbling and alienating people for no reason.
You know, I'll just point out that Giorgia Meloni is one of 2 women leaders in the G7. So I just find it curious why, of all the leaders of the G7, why she's the one who was supposedly begging for a photo. And I can tell you, she was not begging. Bill Sommer, thank you very much. We'll continue to bring you coverage of the unfolding talks in Switzerland.